Former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty is running for president, just not officially. During an interview on CNN, Pawlenty said, "I'm running," but later clarified that it wasn't an announcement, only that he has an exploratory committee. Time to let the Willis watchdogs out. Matt McCall is the CEO of Penn Financial. Leslie Marshall is a radio talk show host and Fox News contributor. And Chris Wilson, new to the show, a Republican strategist. Chris, let's start with you. What do you make of this? I think this is crazy. So you say I'm running and then you're not, and I'm all confused.
Well, he is running. He's formed an exploratory committee, which just is another way to say you're running for president. I think the challenge here for Pawlenty is it shows a misunderstanding or a lack of understanding of the process. When you do something like this, you only get one or two shots at a gaffe along these lines to be taken seriously by the national media, and this is the first one. If he gets another one, then he's going to get, sort of the 3 strikes and you're out. But probably more importantly to the campaign, the most important event you have as a presidential campaign is your announcement. And he kind of already jumped the gun there a little bit. So the question is, does his announcement still get the kind of coverage that he needs to become a serious candidate and to get the kind of attention he's going to have to be able to run well in states like Iowa and New Hampshire?
Leslie, all this concern about timing, you know what? I really don't care. If you're going to run, just say so. Let's get it over with.
Yes, I came here from L.A., and hello, great to be in New York and in person with you guys. But here's the deal. In Los Angeles, we have something called a dress rehearsal, as you do on Broadway, and that's not in front of an audience. So Mr. Pawlenty has to understand you don't announce that you're running until it's the announcement, because it's anticlimactic if you don't say, hey, I'm in the game. And I think actually, though, saying he was running was the most animated and personable I've seen him. Not as dry.
But the thing is, Leslie,
Maddie,
nobody was watching. Nobody was watching. It was on CNN, for God's sakes. Nobody was watching him anyway. No offense, but honestly, no. But honestly,
okay, those days are long over. Okay.
No, but really, and what also happened? If you look into it, his camp came out right away and said he's not really announcing right now. CNN took that clip, and when they put it on Piers Morgan's blog, they kind of broke it down, and he said right after I'm running, it's only exploratory. So, I think they need ratings. They have nothing else. Nobody else is announcing on CNN, so they're coming out to try to do everything they can.
And we're helping them out right now. We got Piers Morgan on our right there. We're showing pictures of CNN. All right. We're going to move on. The Center for Public Integrity reporting on a disturbing trend at the White House. The logs missing names of thousands of visitors, that is, including lobbyists, donors, experts, friends, you name it. The administration brags about making such records available, but they're not accurate or truthful in the first place. In fact, according to Politico, the event column was not filled out for more than 200,000 visits. Leslie, is this any way to maintain transparency and openness?
Well, I don't think they're trying to hide things. I think, honestly, that one of the things the House doesn't have in order, not only in this, but prior administrations, whether you're talking paper shredding, disappearing emails, logs that don't have names, and we've seen guests that are invited, aren't they invited to events with the president? This is something where they need to get their staff under control and retrain. No question. So I'm not going to make excuses for the Democratic president.
So wait a minute. Chris, you got to jump in here. So we've got to retrain our staff now because they're not doing it right. Come on. They're trying to hide stuff.
I think this is typical of this White House. This is the same White House that gave us a stimulus bill that didn't stimulate anything, a health care bill that didn't address the real problems with health care. They give us spending cuts that don't cut any spending. I mean, this is what we've used to seeing as sort of the first postmodern president that really understands the Orwellian speak of politics. And that's they say they're going to be transparent, and they're anything but transparent. In fact, they're probably the most secretive White House going back since Nixon. And I think from that standpoint, it shouldn't surprise anyone.
Maddie?
I mean, there's 2 issues here. One, of those 200,000 people, how many were lobbyists? And that's where the transparency issue comes in. I think there's a lot of lobbyists sneaking in there. The second thing is, what about just national security? There's 200,000 people that are not logged in going into the White House, basically the ruler of the world in my mind, and we don't know who they are. That's very scary. I mean, and the people who crashed, the crashers at parties, the Lilies or whatever their name are, get a reality show.
You were probably there, and you didn't want your name.
I couldn't get in.
I'm scared because I just agreed with you. I think that's the first.
Okay, all right. Well, moving on, a bipartisan bill being introduced in the Senate would launch a privacy bill of rights. The measure, sponsored by John Kerry and John McCain, would set ground rules for companies that collect consumer data. It would govern how data is used, stored, and shared. Matt, you like this?
I'm actually torn on this for two reasons. One, I think there has to be some type of oversight of the internet, because people are taking your information and selling it, and information that could really end up hurting you, and people lose their identity down the road. That being said, I'm not a big fan of big government either, so I don't want the government going too much. So I'm torn. I don't know which way to lean here.
Leslie?
Well, I'm not torn because I'm not anti-big government, being here on the left. But I very much favor people's privacy being protected, because we're seeing a lot of abuses coming on. I think it's only getting worse with these social networking services and how many sites are going to come up in the future. But can be a slippery slope when you look at possibility of censorship and how far is the reach. If there's an overreach, that's a concern for me.
Where do you come down, Chris?
Well, I think it's amazing how far John McCain has come. In 2008, he couldn't even use a computer. Now he's tweeting, and he's an expert in internet privacy. It's pretty remarkable. But, the crazy thing about this legislation is all it does is really enshrine what's already happening. And people vote with their fingertips when it comes to these things. And if there is a site that is not offering adequate privacy, people don't go there. They shy away. And I tend to agree that I think there's too much big government over intervention in these types of things. And it doesn't do anyone any good to put into place. Whenever the government gets involved, it just tends to screw things up.
I think you're giving people too much credit, unfortunately. You're clicking, and they're not reading a fine print. I mean, I click on things all the time. I have no idea what's going up, and I have 30 pop-ups coming at me. So, I think most Americans, unfortunately, are putting their information out there, and that's where they're getting hurt. So there has to be some type of regulation on this.
Huh. I have never heard you utter those words. All right. Here's the story you've been waiting for. Students at LaSalle University in Philadelphia say exotic dancers were part of a professor's extra credit symposium on business ethics. Right. Officials at the Catholic school say the professor, this is just full of one-liners. Jack Rappaport has been suspended, and they are investigating the seminar, which ended abruptly once the dean showed up. Matt, did you have a seminar like that?
This is why I should have went to LaSalle University, as a good little Catholic boy that I am. Well, the class is only $150, so I think it was a deal, because he could blow a lot more than that at the strip joint. But no, when he comes on to business...
So that's what you were paying for.
That's what I hear. But the business ethics, I see where he's going with this, because, yes, it is still part of business society to take people... to try to make a sale, you take them to a strip joint. Unfortunately, that's how business is still done.
You are so dreaming. I can't... Really? This is the argument you're making?
I'm going to die.
I guess you're not buying it.
That's 75. No. Basically, I have never seen, men can be really lame when it comes to excuses for strip clubs, porn, and lap dances. But a professor says we need to study this regarding business ethics. I mean, lap dances, business. I'm blown away by this. But I don't know what the moral of the story is. I have
I
no
just went to the wrong
idea.
school. I think it's what's on. It's the shame is it's just unfortunate he doesn't teach at a public university, because they could just claim academic freedom and they'd have to leave him alone with the whole situation. It's just because he's at LaSalle
Have
that
a
he's in
job
trouble.
for life.
Did they wear Catholic schoolgirl skirts is what I want to know. All of spirits.
We must leave now because it's getting bad. Thanks, Matt, Leslie, and Chris. Thank you very much. Now, I want to update